Hey, what's up, guys? This is TBone here. Welcome back to another episode of playing Legendary Game Heroes. So in today's episode, I wanted to talk about this event, Valiance in the Vast, and what I'm doing in order to do relatively well in my league without using the event deck. And we're also going to talk about mercenary missions. I want to talk about, my thoughts about them and I'd like to know what you think. And of course, we're also going to talk a little bit about Gem Crush. So it is announced it is going to be coming out in 11 days, and you can get basically 12 days worth of gifts as well. So make sure that you check your inbox and collect the rewards on a daily basis. They do have more information about it in a doc, so we will cover that, but not today. I'm going to cover that in the upcoming episodes where we're going to talk more about Gem Crush so that we can understand what it's all about. But today, let's talk about the event, let's talk about the decks, and let's talk about mercenary bosses, because these are the two things that I am most interested in. And so to start things off, I'm going to talk about the sort of a couple of decks I've built without the event deck. So as you can see here, the only event cards I have are the support card and one single event card, which is Okondo. And so without an event card, the best I could do was to use this particular ultimate form, Party Posse of Power. This at least gets me 4 times damage, so that I could bring in other Water Slayer cards, such as my Water Combat Ready crew and also Frozen Devastation. These are sort of the two Water Slayer staple decks I always use. And this time around, I also brought in Apex Predators. It's not the greatest deck here, but it is a card that does have a pretty high stat. And so I use this to try to give me, an increase in my damage output. I did try to incorporate the Armored Automaton in here, but without the ultimate form, it just makes it a little bit more difficult because I'm only boosting one card and it's not that significant. And so this is what I'm using here. I have other options also. So I also consider the fact that because I have the Apex Predators as an immortal killer, one thing you could do is you could try and incorporate the high performance unit area, which gives you a immortal killer bonus, but this really only works well if you can also use a boost from the water ultimate form. And so if you don't have that, I have another option to show you. So I'm going to show you how this particular team works, how it looks like in terms of the amount of damage. So let's see what kind of bosses we have available to us. So I do have a boss here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock it for now, just because I don't want other people to come in the middle of my fight and then taking it out. So the way to lock a boss, if you don't already know, is once you enter a boss, don't deal any damage whatsoever, hit the pause button, and then just quit battle. So if you do this, then you're going to exit out and no one's going to see your boss appear on their list, so they can't join in to attack. You could still rally them out, you just won't be able to, they just will not be able to jump in without your invitation. So we're going to use this deck here, and I'm going to show you about approximately how much damage you can deal with that. And then we're going to sort of try out various different decks also. So with this setup, it's a relatively easy setup to use. You just have to realize that the Party Posse of Power only creates water gems unless you have the ultra rare card along with it. We are not using that. And so instead, what we're going to do is we're going to activate with this order. We're going to activate everything else. Then we're going to activate the Party Posse second last, and we're only going to activate Apex Predators at the very end because it does have a little bit of a damage boost based on the number of power gems on the board. So you want to increase, you want to maximize the number of gems that you have. And so the thing with Frozen Devastation is that you can also get a little bit of a nuke damage, but it's not huge, right? It's only 1.5 times, and you can see that it doesn't deal that much more. And so with this particular deck, you're basically doing a 3-turn, you're doing it over a course of 3 turns, but you're not going to be able to activate everything. So you'll see here at the end of 3 turns, these are the 3 cards that you'll be able to activate. You still get a full board of gems, and so that allows you to at least go quickly. And so every single turn, you're going to deal 4 to 5 trillion damage if you have this setup. And then you can see here, the next turn, you can then also use the Combat Ready crew, and then followed by the Apex Predators. So this gets you also, a little bit of damage output. And so if you kind of continue this path, then you'll be able to, depending how fast you can get, you should be able to get close to at least, 30, 40 trillion, maybe even be able to take out this entire diamond boss. So the idea here is it takes advantage of the fact that you have a 4 times damage boost from your party posse, and it's really boosting your other Water Slayer cards. You're not really boosting Okando here because it already deals 4 times damage, and this is where originally I was thinking of putting in the armor automaton in there, but it doesn't quite generate enough power gems compared to the rest of the cards, and so we kind of suffer in the overall damage output. Although you could try if you have it, especially if you have the Wizard of Oz deck. I think that actually will give you a little bit more advantage, so you should try that for sure. With this, the problem I run into here is if you want to use high performing unit area, you need to build up immortal intensity. You have to focus on building immortal intensity, and you need to use at least one dark relic. And the problem here really is more on whether or not you can sustain the dark gem production. And so with this, what I'm doing here is I also brought in the Dominator Vidin. And so what this will do is this will allow me to create, deal a little bit more damage with a bit more water immortal killers. But the problem now, as you can see, is I have to focus on getting the high performance area charged up, and you just need to make sure that you could do one match. As soon as you can do one match, then you'll be fine. And now I want to show you how much damage you can do. So we're going to activate this because this is the turn where we're going to get hit. And so I'm going to go ahead and activate. And what you want to do here is you also want to try and do a power gem swap of your dark gems so you can remove them, so that way you have less dark gems to have to deal with. And in this case, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to do this the same way, and I'm going to activate all of the gems here, and we're going to see how much damage we can deal from our Apex Predators. So this is with a single boost, and you can see that the damage here goes up to 5.2 and 4.1 respectively. So we're actually able to deal 10 trillion damage there, but you notice how it takes a long time to get it set up. So this isn't really an ideal team for long-term fights within the 20-second clock. If there was a longer clock like an Eternal Boss, this might work better because you could set it up, but I don't think that it works as well as the previous team I showed because there's no restrictions. You're not worrying about the dark team. You could argue that you could also put in a high perform like a regular support card in here to spawn more dark gems, but then you're fighting with how many power gems you can actually spawn, and it's going to take a while for the Apex Predators to be able to spawn enough power gems to fill up the board, because what this does is it only spawns gems for that's based on the gems that's already on the board. It doesn't actually fill up the gems for you, and so you'll need to bring another card that can actually do that for you, but right now I don't have any in the water team. And so that leads me to a different perspective of, well, I might as well, if I'm going to use high performance unit area and also regular unit area, I could just use this setup here. I'm using, so if you have this set of teams, you should definitely use it. So this is with the Draconian Scoundrels, which is a beast killer, to power up my immortal killer, the Freedom Fighters. This is the MVP here, and I'm using glorious golems, and I'm going to tell you why. And we're going to have high performance unit area and regular unit area with all commander, basically all immortal relics, except I only have 4, so I brought in another one that just boosts my my Slayer cards. And so we're going to now try this. Now, if you're using this setup, I'm going to show you the optimal way to play this so that you can benefit the most from this deck. And the trick here is to not do your activations on turn 2. So after this turn, what you want to do is you just want to keep going. The reason for that is the timing of the passive ability from the golems will work very well when you can stagger with the Freedom Fighters. And I'm going to explain what I mean, so you'll see it. So basically, you wait 3 turns. Now on the 3rd turn, when the boss is about to attack, go ahead and activate high performance area and then do a regular gem match. What that will do is that will set you up for a attack boost. And once we get our attack boost, just go ahead and activate everything. And what you're going to get is you're going to get the nuke damage from Freedom Fighters afterwards, so we can see how much damage this can deal. So this deals 1.6 trillion, and it deals over 6 trillion damage as a nuke, okay? Now we're going to go ahead and do a single match. So keep in mind that Freedom Fighters has a 2-turn cooldown, so it's ready to go again. And look at what happens here. The Glorious Golems has a passive ability that will spawn gems every 4 turns. And so what it does is it's going to spawn gems right when the Freedom Fighters is available. And take a look now. We are now at 240 intensity, so I can now go ahead and activate both the high performance area and the regular unit area so that we can get double the amount of damage boost. Okay, attack boost. And now it's ready again. I'm going to go ahead and activate everything. And if you take a look at the damage boost, now it jumps up to 3 trillion and I can nuke for an additional 15 afterwards. And basically what this allows you to do is this sets you up for a continuous fight. I'm going to show you once again. I'm going to do this on a Corellian boss. So the teams I'm showing you, they're mostly focused on the diamond bosses, not Corellian. And what's really nice here is with this particular setup, this works also if you play in that order. It also works for against dodge. And so what happens here is with Freedom Fighters, it has a passive ability where it dispels a buff from an enemy every 4 turns. And so what will happen if you go with this pattern is that when all of your power gems are all of your battle skills are ready to go with Freedom Fighters, it will dispel the dodge from the boss, and then that will allow you to do a full attack. And so here you go. So this boss actually has dodge, and dodge can be quite a bit of a pain to deal with, especially since if you don't deal damage, you can't do anything. And so if you play in this order, you'll see that every time we're ready to unleash the big hit, it will dispel dodge. And so we're gonna go ahead and play this, and let's see how much damage we can do with this setup. So remember, don't do anything for the first couple of turns, and wait until the second time that the boss is ready to attack. All right, so here is dodge, and you can see it doesn't. You won't be able to. A lot of times you won't be able to do anything, right? You won't be able to deal damage because oftentimes it misses more than it doesn't. And so now we're going to get ourselves set up and pay attention to the dodge here. So we're ready to unleash our attack, and it's going to dispel the dodge. So the dodge status is now gone, and I can go ahead and deal as much damage as I could, the full amount of damage without worrying about missing the boss. And then what we're going to do here is we're just going to, wait 1 turn, and then the golems are going to passively spawn power gems. My Freedom Fighters will be available again, but this one I can't dispel dodge, so this attack always has a chance of missing. But it's okay because every 2 turns I'll be able to do a full attack. Okay, and so let's go ahead and do this quickly. And so, if you play this fast, you'll be able to get quite a few attacks in there. So it's all about how quickly you can do your gem matches. And the thing here is because I'm focused on using, my commander, my immortal gems, I don't have any beasts. I don't have any breakers for shields, and so I do deal a little bit less damage than I could normally. If there was no shields around, this will deal a lot more damage for sure. Okay, and so sometimes you can't get the full board every 2 turns. It's okay. What you're really hoping for is you're just going to set yourself up for the big hit anyway, and so you just really want to rely on that. So even though I'm using dark cards against a fire enemy, I could deal enough damage. I could still deal at least 15 every 4 turns, and if I'm lucky, I can also deal another 10 or so. Basically 10 to 15 every 2 turns, and it can really add up. All right. So when I play regularly against a Corellian boss with this setup, I can generally get about 100 trillion or so. It doesn't quite get me to 50%, but the reality is I don't really need it. I'm not really focused on attacking Corellian anyway. With this setup, it's all about the diamond bosses for me. And diamond bosses in this situation isn't too bad either, because you can get quite a bit of trophies, especially if you can get yourself as a finisher. And so we can talk about Mercenary afterwards as well. And so that's sort of like the teams I've been using. There are others I've been thinking about, and I'll talk about that afterwards. I just want to take this opportunity to talk about Mercenary bosses while it's here, so I can show you what it's all about. So Mercenary bosses have a you know, there's a chance for you to earn them. And basically, if you can MVP, then you can get 10 plus 5 plus 2 plus 1 for a total of 17, right? 10, 7, 17, 18%. 18% chance of recruiting this mercenary once you defeat it. And so that's very, very, very low chance. And the only way to guarantee that you recruit is by using this bribe button. And if you didn't have any bribes and you're purchasing with gems, it's very important that after you made the purchase, you actually hit bribe again. I made the mistake of purchasing it with 100 gems and then not hitting the bribe when I hit the mercenary boss, and I didn't end up earning that time. And so keep in mind that if you're going to use gems, you want to use it. Once you use bribe, you can just go in and you don't have to deal any damage whatsoever, and then you'll be able to get the boss after somebody else takes it out. So it is a way for you to, for example, collect the Paradigm Mothership, which is an Ascended Warden, without actually doing any damage to it. You can just tag it as long as you use bribe. And you do get a few, I believe you get 3 from playing through the event, and the rest of them you can collect for 100 gems each. Now, personally, I don't want to spend my bribe because I don't really need the dark. I don't really need this dark warden, but if you are collecting it, then that would be the way to go. All right. Now, some of the other ideas that I thought about, but it didn't quite work out so well, was to use jailers, for example, potentially use jailers, but then it deals 50% damage. And even with 50% damage, though, it was still able to dish out about 1 trillion damage because of all of the boost I get from all the delays. And I can boost it using the Furious Goblin Jockey, which again gives me 4 times damage boost. So then I can then boost up my hard won gorillas. So these two, like I said, those 2 ultimate forms are the staples, and they will definitely be the way to go. Some of the other cards that you can consider using as well, because it is a beast event, you can also consider using something like the Ring Royalty team, which gives a slight amount of boost, right? So what this will do is this will give all the Fire Slayers, it gives it an attack of up to 100%. Okay, so it will, but you can get this from the Ring Royalty, and you can also get this from your El Toros. So the number of El Toros will count here, and so this is going to get you a damage boost. And if you have, an example is you could then potentially put in other Fire Slayer cards that also give you additional boost. So one of the cards that does that, we can show you one of the cards that does that, is potentially the Despots of Despair. So Despots of Despair does a similar thing where you could also do a nuke, but it only does it for 1.5 times. All right. Another option, if you want to go with the fire deck, is to simply go with the Fire Arcane deck. All right, Fire Arcane deck, modified brawlers, has the same idea. In fact, let's go ahead and set one up right now. So what I can do here is I can use Ring Royalty as the team here, and what I'll do is I will go ahead and use the commander, and we're going to set this team up right now. We're going to put this to the test because I didn't actually try it out yet. And so I'm going to go ahead and use these 2 cards. Okay. And so the idea here is to boost up my arcane cards as much as possible. And so we're going to do just that. And another arcane. So let's go ahead and do Fire Arcane Slayer. So we'll go ahead and use, I think Queen of the Scene is going to be better. And we're going to use Arcane Relics. So let's go ahead and do Fire Arcane Relic, and I can use all of these because I have both Slayer and Commander cards in here. And so we're going to go ahead and give this a shot. All right, we're going to give this a shot and see how much damage we can deal with this. And keep in mind too, before I forget, when you hit mercenary bosses, make sure that you're using the right affinity for it. They're all going to be weak against Beast Slayer, but you want to make sure that you're using the right affinity so you can deal more damage against it. So this is going to be Trader. I think that's going to be okay. So we're just gonna try this out just to see if this works at all. And so let's go ahead and try this. So remember, what you're doing is you're waiting for your passive ability. So you're waiting for this to passively spawn. Every 4 turns, it's going to spawn 4 power gems force, and so with 2 of them, it's going to be 8, and then we're going to activate everything every 4 turns. And you want to increase your arcane skill points as high as possible. All right, so we're going to just wait for 2 more turns. We're going to wait 2 more turns. We're going to activate everything. The challenge here is because there's no toxin dispel here. This is not the greatest boss to try against, because we're going to be getting a lot of damage. We're going to be getting hit a lot. So let's take a look and see if this see how much damage we can deal with this compared to the dark team with a nuke. All right, so we want to pay attention to the setup here. So it's not great, right? So like we're dealing a little bit less than 1 trillion, but this is at 125 intensity. So really, with this, you want to go up to 400, 500, and then that's when the power is going to be. So like I said, it's not going to be great to go up against a boss that is traitor. This will be better if you're going up against haste, for example. So if you have like a haste boss, that's an option, but you have to get your intensity really, really high. And so there are different choices for you to go after, but it's all about, the same concept. Find a card that has the ability to give you some amount of boost, and then look for cards that also give attack boost that is based on either intensity amount or something that can give you a lot, like 200, 2,500 or 1,200 from commander cards. Those will give you better output, even if it's off affinity, than trying to cobble together some water cards that have 0 damage boost. And if you're struggling, consider using an alternative affinity. I think you'll do better there. So that would be my suggestion. And so I think I covered everything here. We talked about the deck I'm using. We talked about the mercenary missions. And we briefly talked a little bit about Gem Crush. Like I said, we're going to have more information about Gem Crush coming through over the next couple of days, hopefully more info, so I can cover it more. But we will definitely talk about what it's all about, and I'll have a dedicated episode just for that. And so keep checking back for more info. All right, that's going to be it for me for today. Hopefully this has been helpful. So remember, definitely, if you can, make sure to try out this dark deck. It works well. I use it to take down diamond bosses with great success. So hopefully this helps you also. All right, so take care. Thank you very much, guys. Have a good event, and I'll see you next time.